This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on political developments in Nepal. The participants are Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, journalist.
So today we are discussing the recent development in Nepal, where today we had the President of Nepal who dissolved the House of Representatives and announced midterm polls which will be held on November 12th and 19th after she was convinced that both the present Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and the opposition were not in a position to form a government. Ambassador Sajjanhar, how do you see this latest development in Nepal, also given the fact that we have seen this political instability and the political crisis in Nepal now extending from almost December of last year, and this seems to be the latest episode in this political instability?
Yes, you're right, Simran, that the crisis started, possibly one could say, on 20th of December when the Parliament was first dissolved by the order of President of Nepal. But in fact, the crisis had been going on for quite some time before that also. Because since the time that COVID-19 pandemic came and there was unrest within the Communist Party of Nepal, particularly as far as the other co-chair of the party, that is Pushp Kamal Dahal or Prachanda is concerned, his supporters and followers were charging that the Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli had not been able to deal effectively with the crisis, and they wanted to express no confidence against the Prime Minister. And it was that a no confidence motion was presented in the Parliament that KP Sharma Oli dissolved the Parliament. After that, of course, we know that the Supreme Court stepped into the picture. There were about 8 petitions that were submitted to the Supreme Court, saying that the action of dissolution of the Parliament is against ultra-vires the constitutional provisions. And in February, the Supreme Court agreed with that and said that the Parliament should be reinstated. It was done, and we saw that on the 10th of May, the Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, he tried to prove his majority. He was unsuccessful. He was voted out. And then an opportunity was provided by the President to the opposition, Nepali Congress led by Sher Bahadur Daiba. He was given about 4 days. Last Thursday, he was given time till evening. But he was also not able to rustle the enough numbers to prove his majority. As a result of that, last Friday, it was KP Sharma Oli who was again given the oath of Prime Minister as an interim Prime Minister, as a minority Prime Minister, and he was asked to prove his majority within 30 days. Now, late last night, Prime Minister Oli, he had a meeting of his cabinet. The cabinet decided to recommend to the President Vidya Devi Bhandari that the Parliament should be dissolved. And so, late last night and early today morning, that was the notification that was issued by the President's office that on the recommendation of the cabinet, the Parliament is being dissolved. So this is going to be taken up once again to the Supreme Court because again opposition parties as well as Madhav Kumar Nepal, who is also a member of the Communist Party of Nepal, Unified Marxist-Leninist. He has also joined the opposition. So all these leaders, they have said that they are going to approach the Parliament, and this of course includes the Communist Party of Nepal Maoist Center. The leader is Prachanda or Pushp Kumar Dahal. Of course, the Nepali Congress led by Sher Bahadur Daiba, the chairperson of the Janta Samajwadi Party, that is Upendra Yadav, and the vice chairman of Rashtriya Jan Morcha, that is Durga Podil. So all of them have announced that they are going to approach the Supreme Court. It is very likely, as in the past, the Supreme Court might say that this is a move which is against the Constitution and the Parliament might be brought back again into existence. But so far the situation is that it is playing out according to the game plan that KP Sharma Oli and President Vidya Devi Bhandari had in mind, because this is exactly what they had done on the 20th of December. The elections were to be held in April, but then because of the decision of the Parliament the elections could not take place. Now the elections scheduled to take place in November, as you mentioned.
Ambassador Sarsanhat, as you explained in detail, and we see this crisis unfolding in Nepal, we also have another cause of worry, and that is that if the elections are held in November or they are held sometime, this is also a time when Nepal and we see the region facing the corona pandemic. And we also saw that KP Sharma Oli recently lamented that India hasn't sent them the promised consignment of the vaccines, and he is, of course, as always, playing his own politics. How do you see this corona pandemic then feeding into this political instability of Nepal?
This is a big problem, as I have mentioned, Simran, earlier also, that this was one of the most important elements that of criticism against the Prime Ministership of KP Sharma Oli. It is his opposition in the parliament as also in his own party who charged that he was not giving adequate attention and not taking effective action against the spread of COVID-19. For instance, but this issue has become much worse over recent months. For instance, if we were to take the number of cases, they have increased from 300 that was in April to about 9,000 today, in these days, per day. So there is an increase of about 3,000%, and the number of positive cases is about 44%. So while in April there used to be daily deaths used to count up to 5, these days it is about 174 deaths that are taking place. So in this country, which the population is not all that large, it's just about 29-30 million, but the healthcare system is very fragile. There are hardly any beds, any doctors, any hospital beds, any ICU beds, any ventilators, any PPE kits or masks. India had, of course, last year supplied many of these items, PPE kits and ventilators and masks to Nepal. And also, when we started our own vaccine drive, then we had provided 15 million doses of the vaccine to Nepal on the 21st of January. So, but all that has been used up now by Nepal. And so it needs more. India at this moment cannot supply more to it. So it is getting these supplies of various medicines and vaccines also from the United States, from European Union, from different countries of Europe. But this is an issue that is likely to get worse as we go along. And what Prime Minister Oli has been busy doing is holding huge rallies where the COVID-appropriate behavior is not observed. The opposition has also been holding rallies to bring up to drum up support for themselves. But of course, their rallies have not been as large as that of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. The vaccines we supplied to Nepal were 1.5 million on the 21st, and all of them have been used up. But going forward, this is going to be a big challenge as far as Nepal is concerned, because this is likely to spread to different tier 2 cities and also to the rural areas.
Ambassador Nepal, we've also seen that when we talk of Nepal, we also have to sometimes talk about China. And we've seen that in the recent years and in the recent decades, the Chinese footprint in Nepal has really grown. If we look at the large-scale investments, the pledges, particularly in energy and infrastructure and connectivity sectors, there seems to be an enhanced political influence and also Nepal's own subscription to China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative. How do you think India should go ahead as it seeks to balance out the Chinese influence in Nepal, and also that India does not want to interfere in what is essentially an internal matter of Nepal?
China, of course, has been very active in Nepal. But I think there is a huge difference if we were to look at relations between India and Nepal and relations between China and Nepal. Because China is a new entrant as far as Nepal is concerned. It has several interests in Nepal. The first, of course, would be that there is a very significant Tibetan population in Nepal. And China has always been rather wary and anxious about the behavior of the Tibetan population in the Tibet Autonomous Region. Of course, they have been quite peaceful. The region has been quite stable for quite some time, but China always is concerned and worried. So it wants to reach out to Nepal so that the Tibetan population in Nepal does not join up with the Tibetans in TAR so as to create problems and difficulties for China. The second, of course, is that it wants to, in a manner of speaking, create a string of pearls around India. So its neighboring countries, India's neighbors, it would like to reach out to them so that the influence and the very special ties and relations that India has with these countries, that is reduced and its own influence and predominance in those countries increases. China would like to bring in railways and roadways into Nepal and bring them up to the Indian border. As far as Nepal is concerned, they would also like to take advantage and benefit of the investments coming in from China. As far as India is concerned, we have very strong people-to-people contacts, and that is extremely important for us. So we've seen even in the recent past when Mr. Oli was trying to stoke some hyper-nationalistic sentiments and tendencies to strengthen his own position. So India had responded sternly to this.
Ambassador Sajanar, as you pointed out that India has maintained that this is an internal matter of Nepal, and we are also watching the situation unfold in Nepal. Would you concede the fact that what we see in Nepal today is essentially due to their own internal domestic politics? We have their own Communist Party not able to decide as to who the next leader should be. One, it is their own internal domestic fighting. And two, if there is an external factor today, we can safely assume that it is China, because we've seen the Chinese envoy in Nepal being quite active in the domestic affairs of Nepal.
You're very right. The Chinese envoy in Nepal has been particularly active. She has been going around and meeting the president, the prime minister, the foreign minister. In fact, when the crisis took place in Nepal, there was also a delegation that was sent by China to meet all the people, all the stakeholders, all the senior functionaries, and try to bring them together. And they did come and they had meetings with all the people, and they thought that they would be able to pressurize them. In fact, the unison, that is the coming together of the Communist Party of Nepal, Unified Marxist-Leninist, and the Communist Party of Nepal, Maoist Center, their coming together in 2018 was also done by China. So that is the reason why KP Sharma Oli's government, although his party had received only 121 seats out of 271 seats in the parliament. So Chinese ambassador has been trying there in Nepal, but she has not been successful. And the fact that there has been this turmoil, this would not be to the liking of China. It is definitely not to the liking of India also, because we would like stability in that country. We would like tranquility in that country, because then we can work with the government as well as with the people. So we consider whatever is happening there to be the internal affair, to be the internal matter of Nepal, and we should continue to let it be like that. But in terms of our development cooperation, in terms of providing assistance and support, that should continue so that the people-to-people connect can stay as it is and get even further strengthened.
And as Ambassador Sajanar pointed out, this remains an internal matter of Nepal, and India will continue to watch the developments. We will also continue to see how the political situation in Nepal develops over the next few weeks. With these thoughts, we bring today's discussion to an end. Thank you.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on political developments in Nepal. The participants were Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our website newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.